Good morning. Follow Stretchy Banana, and I believe chess piece number 23. There's only 16 chess pieces on a board for one player. It's not a 17th piece or a 23rd, so... Battle Girl Dimples, my number one fan. You're going to be at LTC, I think I saw. We're definitely going to hang out again. I won't be drinking, though. I won't be drinking. My wife cannot drink, so I'm not going to be doing that either, unfortunately. But we're still going to hang out. Are you playing, or are you just going to spec? Long live the Popcast. Ohio State's so pretentious. Is that the correct? What does pretentious mean exactly? Attempting to oppress by affecting greater importance. Okay, yeah, that is correct. As per the usual, I am correct. What's up, JPEG? 22 years going strong. I'm on let's see, when was October? I'm on like a 4-month land sobriety, 5-month or something. 6 maybe? I don't know. Happy. I didn't get trashed. I've never gotten trashed in a land. I'm not that kind of drinker. That has never happened. Those college days are... First off, I can't do that anymore. Second off, it's just those college days are long gone for me. Social drinking. Most of my audience can't drink, so I don't know why we're talking about that. Speaking of Low Tide City, Greg, I know you usually listen to the YouTube version of this. Are you going to Low Tide City? Just thinking of people I like hanging out with or want to hang out with more. Alright, it's not a drinking contest. Nah, the YouTubers, they'll listen all the way through. My YouTube audience, I respect. The YouTube audience are the ones who always DM me about the Popcast stuff. And I always say you can DM me about Popcast stuff. The YouTube audience does DM me because they'll go back and listen to it the next day, and then they'll be like, oh, well, I know he's not like live or he's got like time away from it. And they'll DM me and they'll continue the conversation. And if they leave a message if they like leave a comment on the YouTube video, it's usually something that's thought out. Whereas you idiots in chat are just, well, you're idiots, but you're in chat, so that works out. Oh. Except for Battle Girl Dimples. Battle Girl Dimples is exempt from being an idiot in chat. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you are having nightmares about the Ouroboros scream, blaming overfishers for driving up the egg market, sparking another sticks versus motion debate, all because of Salmon Run. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Hey, congratulations to those of you who were in the top 5% of the big run. We saved Art Academy from that giant flying snake fish creature monstrosity. That thing's scream is haunting. And that's not a scream of something that's tried to scare you. That is a scream of a demonic creature, an abomination of God that is in pain. And you had to kill that thing. It was the humane thing to do. So if you failed to kill the Ouroboros, not only do you not get scales, you've kind of let down all of society and all of creation at the same time. That's on you. That's something you have to live with. You may never get an opportunity to fight that sucker again. But man, it doesn't boggle my mind because I've been on this planet long enough to know how everything works, how the human brain works. Salmon Run is just supposed to be the fun little side quest that you do with your casual friends because there's nothing on the line. You're all working together. There's no competition. But as soon as you add something, some sort of element of a prize, some sort of element of this is how you can determine that you are better than other people, all of a sudden fun goes out the window and it's just people going after each other on Twitter, complaining about their teammates or people that are overfishing and stretching what the top 5% is supposed to be. It's all fun and games until there's a stupid virtual golden trophy you can put in a locker that nobody looks at. And then it's not fun anymore and it's about competition. Congratulations, competitive Splatoon community. Even the most funnest things, you find ways to drag and make it unfun. Congratulations. By the way, I got top 5%, 144 eggs. Not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I wish I actually cared about my locker. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the podcast. This upcoming weekend says all MIT. Minnow Cup is taking place on Saturday, and it is going to be tower control. Uh-oh. That's we're going to figure out who can play 96 gal and who can't. With that crack-on thing that's going on there. Tower control only. On Sundays, the Launch Point Draft Cup, which I believe registration usually ends like the week before so that they have time to put those teams together. And you guys have time to drop from your teams the Sunday before the tournament starts so that the TOs can actually earn their bread by gerrymandering all their teams together at the last second of people that sign up as subs, I guess, is whatever. So there you go. Also, if you are a table turf person, which I am not yet, but once I start actually playing that thing, you guys know you have no shot in hell in beating me. There's no way. You guys might not even bother signing up for this table turf tournament. Duel On, that's going to be hosted by Dapple Productions on Sundays. I believe every Sunday going forward. I'm going to start learning that game. I'm going to play it, and you guys are going to get beat so bad. I'm going to beat the absolute snot out of you guys. You guys are going to spend the rest of your lives with clear noses. No more allergies, no more snoring at night. Like, I'm going to cure you guys of your colds. That's how badly I'm going to beat you when I start playing this table turf. It might not be this weekend, but eventually I'm going to start picking it up, and I'm just going to absolutely demolish you kids. It's going to be ugly, but you'll be thanking me. You'll DM me after I beat you in the tournament saying, thank you. My sinuses are so much clearer now. Oh. Today, we are going to be looking at Little Squid League number 28. It took place on Saturday. It was the biggest Little Squid League to date. Again. Again. I feel like they've broken that record at least 3 months in a row, if not more. But first, I have a guest, but I gotta find out where they are. I think, at least. Agreed upon. Oh, in the other server. I see now. There we go. All right. Welcome in to the Popcast. Somebody who's going to help us figure out what is going on with this new season. We had some new weapons come out, some new specials, and it's time to turn to somebody a little bit more smarter than me. So welcome into the Popcast. Member of Last Resort, someone who's got over 100K subscribers on their YouTube channel, and current record holder for most unintentional Twitter ratios in the Splatoon community. Give it up for ProChara. How's morale today?
Doing pretty good. It's been a pretty fun day. How are you?
I'm doing great. It is a cozy 74 degrees outside. I got to ride the bike. It's going to be really cold later, but I take what we can get. 100K subscribers on YouTube. Did you ever think you could get that?
I mean, like toward the end of last year is when I figured it would happen. Until then, nah, not really. Like, it was kind of when Splatoon 3 hit where I was like, oh, this might actually happen soon. I was kind of, I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about it. It's one of those things where I think it's got to take a bit of time to set in. I still haven't really fully processed it yet.
Was the inspiration to get into YouTube something where dude made a video at one point saying we need more people to make content? Is that what inspired you?
It was a podcast that Ninja and a few others used to do called Talk Speed Up.
Yeah.
And he was on it as a guest to talk about competitive content. And he called competitive Splatoon content a 2 out of 10. That's what got me to I'll try this out. Like, that's the whole reason I started.
How long did it take you when you were doing content to get to a point where you're like, oh, I feel like I'm really good at doing this? Or was it just kind of like an awkward filling it out and then you're just like, oh, people like this, I'll just keep doing it?
Every time I felt like I got somewhat comfortable, my standards kind of went up. I'd say I'm pretty comfortable with it now, but at this point I don't edit most of my own stuff. I guess I'll say, like, when the Splatoon 3 Direct happened and the content I did from that, like, those few weeks were probably, in terms of content I made myself, was probably the best ones that I did. I was really happy with the content I put out after that Direct came out. So I'd say, like, that was the point where I felt like, oh, yeah, I am making good stuff. Like, this is content I can actually be proud of.
And whenever there's a new patch or a new update to the game, that's just free. That's just free real estate to make some videos there with that.
Yeah.
So let's dive right into that because we got the new season. We got some new specials coming out. I want to start with Super Chump. I saw you using it. You guys using it against Seafoam in a scrim. You're doing double Super Chump. Is it viable, or is it just something that needs to be explored a little bit more? Because on the surface level, it just seems really, really weak.
It's absolutely a special gear toward aggressive comps. The whole value you get is you just launch chumps. You have like 2 QR weapons, just run forward and then fight with all the mini shields. And then if they ignore them, they like paint the entire map because you launch them in mid, and then you just have all paint control. So for us, it was like, oh, well, we run like 2 quick respawn players all the time. Why don't we just run forward with chumps and try it out? And I think it's definitely viable. I think the special's way better than it seems. The main issue is when we started running chump and then we fought double splash. And then, especially in other modes, like in zones, it actually held up pretty well because the chumps the chumps would also effectively be in zone and you could not ignore them. So it kind of forced the enemy team to deal with it. But even then, and especially on other modes, it just did not have the ability to deal with the brute force Crab had. I think like one zap in comps is definitely something teams could run if they want, especially if they play more aggressively. But as a whole, I mean, it's good. It's definitely viable. It's just not. It's not anywhere near the level of competing with double splash, in my opinion. I don't think we're going to see any teams like beat a double splash team with double zap in the future. I think that was just a day one tournament in a zones only environment kind of thing.
Well, I think with it being such a new thing, we haven't even had a week to really look through any of the new weapons or specials at this point. I think most people are just using it as I'm going to fire it on this area, and that just means we control the area like we would with a booyah bomb or missiles or something like that. And that doesn't seem like that's how it works, because the jumps, you sneeze on them, they explode. They don't really paint. They don't really do damage. So it seems like when I was watching you guys scrim, what you're trying to do is fire it on a certain area and also jump to that area at the same time, like making use of the distraction or like the overabundance of targets to hit at the same time to try to slip in. Is that like the mindset with it?
Kinda. I'd say the big difference is like you booyah bomb or missile to move enemies into a position where you want to fight them. So like you're kind of moving them forward or backward. Chumps don't really move people for the most part. It's more you just want the chumps where the fight's taking place. So like if I were popping a booyah bomb, like oftentimes that'd be thrown toward the back of the zone to move the opponents away. Whereas for chumps, I'd put them in the zone and we would go fight in zone. Like the chumps would be wherever you want your players, because the best value they get is when they're actually blocking damage for you, since you can shoot through them and they can't. And so the positioning you actually want to put the chumps in is very different from displacement specials, and that's kind of the main thing we struggled with at first. Is I would watch back the VOD and I'd be like, well, these 6 chumps just got completely ignored because they just walked past them and then they did nothing. So we have to put these closer, because if we are trying to fight them and they're not actually in the chumps, then the special gets like 0 value and you just lose every team fight. And so it's very strict with where you put the chumps. You have to put them in the right spot and you have to fight exactly in that spot or they won't do anything. It's very specific.
Well, it's just so different. Like you mentioned, it's just a different mindset of how you use the special versus how we've been so brain dead using specials up to this point in the game that it might just take more time to figure out. Another example of that is Stamper, or the chainsaw, as I like to call it, the sword. Initially, nobody was touching that thing. But as the game is going on, you're seeing more and more people, not just yourself. You're seeing Kyo pick it up and be very effective with it. So you're starting to see like some of these other things trickle in. And I guess kind of like off topic from the patch that we got here, is Stringer ever going to be used, or is that just something most people don't even want to put effort into trying to figure out?
I think Stringer, especially after the last patch where Whale's a little better and it's a bit cheaper, is actually pretty good. The only team I've really seen actually try and run one, though, is Sonder with Shy playing it, and they do a pretty good job with it. I think it's one of those weapons where you really need to play it for a long time and get good at it, kind of similar to Stamper. Like, there's a lot of people playing Stamper, but there's very few actually getting results with it. And it's kind of the same thing for I think Stringer is arguably even more strict because it's harder to fit into comps, and most people just don't want to learn it. I don't think it's as good as something like Stamper, but I do think it's a very powerful weapon that has a lot it can do. It's really difficult to manage because you have so many different things you can do, and all of them are hard. Like your one shots are hard. Going for like partials to space people out without feeding is hard. Everything with the weapon is just really difficult to do stuff.
Well, as you kind of mentioned, it's difficult to beat double splash with almost anything.
Yeah, especially when you're going against. So, that is part of. Well, I'm guessing when we get to the patch, I'll kind of bring that up because that is a factor, admittedly.
Well, that's something I kind of want to get into right now. Before we get into Kraken, which is obviously a big topic of conversation, one of the screenshots of that you posted yesterday of a tournament grand finals, the comps was basically triple splash, Machine, and the other team had like one of their splashes was a Neo Splash with Ink Strike to counter the crab. So the meta amongst the top level players wasn't changed at all. No Fire Fin, no Kraken, no nothing. No, with all these other things. Oh, Inkjet counters crab now. Well, who the hell's going to use Inkjet? Inkzuka counters it now. Okay, well you still got to get a good weapon that uses Inkzuka against it. So like with all these new things, is the meta really going to change at all after the dust settles from this patch? At least as far as top level is concerned.
I think Zap, Firefin, and 96 could be mixed into comps and Neo Splash. I don't think any of them will take over the Splash's spot. I think all of them just compete with the things you can run with and against other crab tanks. Nothing in this patch replaces any of the double splash to me. Nothing. Actually, I look at it and I'll be like, yeah, this is something you'll actually pick instead of double splash. Like, this can do something better or more effectively or counter it. No, nothing does that. That's kind of the problem with every patch for the past 3 times in a row.
Then what's the solution to this? Because to say, oh, let's increase the ink consumption of a Splash-O-Matic or make burst bombs less, drain more or something like that. Machine's been nerfed like 2 or 3 patches in a row and it hasn't gone anywhere. Is there really like a hard nerf you can do to Splash that will make people finally say, I gotta drop it?
It has to be toning back crab. Part of the reason Machine's really good is just Machine is one of the best options with and against Splash in the game. It combos with the Burst Bomb, the Fizzy combos with it, it can hit the Crab Rider, it has Booyah to deal with it. And if you have a weapon where every part of its kit can effectively deal with Splash and Crab, it's probably a good weapon. Like, that's just the meta these days. Is, do you work with these things? Can you go against these things that are on Splash? If the answer is yes, you're probably in a good spot. Like, even 96 is a similar thing to it. You have a wall to deal with burst bombs, and then your Kraken beats the special. So we'll see some 96 in other modes. It's all just around Crab. And the problem is, like, you can buff all of these counters, but none of them are going to be as reliable at beating Crab. Like, Inkjet now breaks it in 2 hits instead of 5. A Crab is still going to beat an Inkjet 9 times out of 10.
Exactly.
It's still a 500 HP tank. You have to hit it 3 times in a row because you have to kill the rider as well. And if it remotely looks in your direction, you just implode instantly. And then on top of that, even if you could beat a Kraken like 60-40 with an Inkjet, which will never happen, but let's say you could, what are you going to pick that A, will get as much value as the Splash with Burst Bomb normally, and B, will get Inkjet just as much as the Splash will get Crab? Like, what are you going to pick? Nothing does that. Like, I'd say the closest thing is something like Splattershot, and even then, like, your Zuka better break the Crab and kill the Rider, and if it just breaks the Crab, all you've done is traded specials, and you've gotten less value than the Crab has because the Crab has been shooting at your team, and you've been shooting at the Crab. And so it's so situational for these specials to get more value than Crab, and so difficult that it's completely unreliable, and it almost never happens. Tri-Strike is a similar problem. Your Tri-Strike has to break the Crab in 2 strikes, and then you get an extra one, and you'll get more value. If you break it in 3, the Crab technically gets more value. And that's assuming you break it at all. You might throw 3 Tri-Strikes and the Crab doesn't even break, and you've wasted your entire special for nothing. And, like, there's no way forward with this without toning back the Crab. Like, it is just the most reliable way in, and it's safe. And you can't make all of these specials as good as Crab. Like, what would a Tri-Strike even look like with the same reliability as Crab? Like, 5 of them? You just can't. There's like an upper limit of how much more powerful you can make this stuff. And even then, I don't know if it would work. Like, even if we continued to buff more and more specials, I don't know if it'd work. And it actually has another problem that I'll talk about real quick, which is this way of balancing actually hurts other specials. For example, like Ultra Stamp, right? Ultra Stamp is really bad, right?
Yes.
So we buff Stamp to do more damage to Crab. So Stamp right now is better because it does damage to Crab, right? But guess what? Once Crab is gone, like, so let's say they finally kill Splash and Crab is out of the meta, now Stamp is back to being just as bad as it was before. And so is Inkjet. it's not only buffing specials in a way where they're trying to counter something that doesn't work, but it also doesn't fix any of the other problems that keep them bad. Inkjet still doesn't do any damage. It only does damage versus Crab. So if Crab is gone and we have Bubble and Booyah, then Inkjet sucks again, and we have the same problem. The special balance is so unbelievably like bad in this game. The difference between stuff like Crab and Kraken versus like Reef Slider and Inkjet is just it's a ludicrous gap. And in Splatoon 2, that kind of gap existed too. But the difference is every weapon had 2-3 kits. You didn't have to play the one with Splashdown. In this game, if your weapon's stuck with Stamp, or stuck with Inkjet, or stuck with Reef Slider, too bad. You probably don't have a second good kit at all because there's like 20 weapons in the game that even have another kit in the first place. It's a giant problem, and I feel like patches aren't addressing it correctly.
I think that's a fantastic point that you bring up, and that's something I haven't really thought about. They're not buffing the specials, they're just buffing it against one specific thing, and as soon as that one specific thing's gone, then you're just still left with the same thing that you had. That's a great point. Another thing I'm really curious about, because this special is just dominating solo queue right now, the Kraken. How good is this thing really? Because it seems like in some instances it's untouchable. I think somebody figured out you can ink strike it when it's on the tower, and that knocks it off the tower. That seems to be the only counter to this sucker right now. Is if let's say you take Kraken off of the weapons that it's on, and you take Crab off of all the weapons that it's on, and you just had pound for pound Crab versus Kraken, is Kraken better?
Kraken is worse, but only slightly. I think it has a chance, but the main thing is there is certain terrain or certain distances where the Kraken cannot effectively deal with the Crab. So, for example, on the Hagglefish tent, if you have a Crab up there, no Kraken is going to make it all the way over there in time to do anything. So it depends heavily on the map. So stuff like Eeltail, Hagglefish, anything with high ground that's difficult for the Kraken to get to, it's nearly impossible. The only time where Kraken becomes a legitimate counter is on maps where all the Kraken spots are accessible. So stuff like Mako is pretty good because that left side now has a sign in front of it, I guess, or Mahi and stuff. Because those maps, like Mahi zones, those maps you can actually reach the Crab. And even then it's tricky. At that point, the Crab user just wants to try to stay alive and punish you. And so if you like charge and waste half your duration chasing the Crab, and then the Crab manages to live, and his team punishes you, then you're down 4-3. The main reason that Crab is better, though, is that Crab gets your entire team in. Kraken is really good at dealing with objective mainly and forcing people to deal with it. Like, if there's a Kraken on you, you do not get a choice. You're dealing with it for 7 seconds, whether you like it or not. If there's a Kraken on the tower, unless if you have Tri-Strike, it's going to be on the tower. If it goes to your base, it's going to jump a power climb in. Like, that's the kind of thing where Kraken really thrives. But Kraken's still not like a team-wide entry tool. Like, if you pop a Kraken and run forward, the other team will just hide, wait for the other people to start running in, ambush those people, and then punish the Kraken. So there is counterplay in that sense, and especially in zones is where that has an impact. But on the other modes where Kraken can affect the objective, it becomes a lot harder. The main thing really, though, is just Crab and Kraken are not enemies. They are friends. Crab and Kraken do everything you want for each other. You Crab so everyone can walk forward, and then all of a sudden the other team can't hide, which means the Kraken will go hunt people down. I've seen Crush Soda play 96 with Double Splash. It's very strong when you pair those two together. It's like a devastating combination because everywhere you have to run and hide from the Crab, the Kraken can just get to. You're forced to deal with one or the other, and then the other two players are just running in with the entire map now vacant for them. It's crazy. So I do think a better Kraken weapon could serve as a sort of counter, but even then, like, why not just run Crabs with it? Why would you not want the Crab alongside it?
So if Crab were to go away somehow, like they were to nerf the range of it or the duration, or if you die on the Crab, you just instantly die automatically, and Crab just went away, does Kraken just replace it and you just see, like, if they put Kraken on a shooter other than a Gal, would that just
something
take
that
over
isn't
the meta?
A slot machine?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would probably be, unless if they put missiles on more stuff, it would probably just be the best special in the game. It would play incredibly differently though. Like you would want multiple Krakens, and then the stuff you ran with it would be different. Because right now everything you run with it is based around like what Crab wants or what deals with it. For example, like a Stamper is no longer super valuable if there's like two Krakens in every comp, because a Stamper is not going to do anything to the Krakens. So why run that? Instead, you'll want a weapon that can paint the map really well and find people so people can't hide from the Kraken. So stuff that can locate and turf quickly are going to become more valuable, stuff like that. So I think it would take over if Crab just vanished, but the entire meta would still play completely differently because it would be much more about enabling Krakens than enabling Crabs. Would that be better or worse? I have no idea until we see it, but
it would be different.
It could happen.
And
it would be very different, yeah.
I think right now that's all people want is just something different. I think we kind of romanticize old metas because we forgot how horrible they were. But I like if you were truly look in the moment of every meta, I don't think anybody was ever happy about what the meta was. It just seems so exaggerated right now because it's so like, are you serious? They're about to use 4 splash-o-matics at this point. Like, this is beyond ridiculous. And looking at it from that perspective, this is something I talked about last week. More and more people are bringing up this topic of eventually getting to a point to where the community starts banning certain things. You can't use more than one splash. You can't use more than one crab or something like that. I was wondering what your thoughts are on something like that, community-wide rules. Similar to what we saw last week with everybody banning Steve from Ultimate, seemingly. Like, do you feel like we need to eventually head down that path?
I like, especially from my competitive player perspective, because I have two perspectives, like competitive and content. Competitive wise, like I get the idea that like stray as far away from bans as possible. That's a giant rabbit hole and blah blah blah. Like 100% that's true. But we're in a new game, and in a new game with content being added, this is a very small window where we actually get some measure of new people constantly coming into the scene, like from the game itself. And if viewers are going to watch tournaments and then just seeing crabs for months, getting bored and shutting it off, then yeah, we have to do something about it. It's going to suck, it's not going to be fun, and there's going to be controversy and arguments, but the scene is not going to grow from a viewer perspective if the viewers do not want to watch. I've talked a little bit about the IDLE 2 statistics. So for a comparison, because these events were within like a month of each other, I streamed the Ludi Grand Finals, which happened to have interesting stuff like an H3 being picked randomly by the Japanese team. That had around 600 viewer average and 900 peak on my YouTube channel. IDLE was streamed without me, the person who runs the channel, even being there. Like, I was not there on my own channel, and you could see a bunch of Timmies in my chat being like, where's Chara, guys? That had 900 average, 1298 peak.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. And that's not even counting people who are watching Kyo, who had like 500 at one point, Storm had around 200, Kiver had around 200 on a watch party. Like, straight up, it was one of the most viewed tournaments. Between all of those combined, there were over 2,000 people watching IDLE 2. I don't know if I can say that about any event before the big, like after the big house. Like, it's just what it is. And so, it's important, I think. Like, really, I think viewers need to have a reason to be invested. And especially for a scene that has, I mean, the branding's getting better, but it's still a problem. The unique comps and ways people play the game are a lot of the appeal as a casual viewer. And if everyone plays the same thing and we have no identity to any of these teams, why would they care about one team or another? Why would they care to watch?
So you have a better understanding of YouTube statistics and analytics than any idiots in chat, unless Jim from Squid School is listening to this at some point. Are you saying that you feel like the key determination in viewership increase from DivX, the DivX stream that you did versus the IDLE stream that you did, was the rules of the tournament itself?
Yeah, I mean, I literally put in the title, Meta Bans Tournament IDLE 2. Like, I advertised it off the fact that there were bans, because I knew people would be more interested to watch a tournament if it wasn't going to be the same double, triple splash. So, like, I was confident enough to not only think, like, yeah, this will happen, I will put it in the title. Like, I changed my title to put it there because I was that confident people would watch it. And that's, it's a tricky dilemma because obviously we want the competitive stuff to be as least restrictive as it is. And there's also some events like obviously Starburst and Crush Soda and Destiny Bond and all that are practicing for PAX. And PAX isn't going to be weapon restricted. Leafy or someone on sale talked about, hey, what if we all just agree to do one splash? Will never happen because they're going to play to win. But like for some events, whatever we restrict isn't going to be there. And so it's going to be hard for teams. But at the same time, if Nintendo's not going to figure out how to balance crab, then we don't really have much choice but to try to find as good a compromise to where the meta can still be something that's similar to competitive players, like maybe one splash, but interesting enough to viewers to where they want to actually watch our tournaments again and get into the scene and have something to strive for that isn't the same thing they've watched for the past 6 months in 3 balance patches.
That's a completely valid point to bring up for sure. The viewership over Idle, and that's one of the main reasons Idle was done was just to see what the difference a YouTube audience would look like for competitive Splatoon versus a Twitch audience, which is where we've been living for the past 7 years or so. Also, how dare you lie to my Twitch chat here? You said you weren't on that stream. You absolutely were. You played against Kings and damn near beat them.
Oh, I was on it one time, but I wasn't, I wasn't on comms. That's right.
Because I paid attention to that chat. After your match was done, everybody doing, where's Charge? Is Charge team's going to play yet? Like, bro, you just missed it. It was a great set. So let's transition into that. Last Resort, your team that you're playing on. You say you look at things from a content creator standpoint and a competitive player standpoint. I understand that completely, at least when I was playing more actively. How are things going with Last Resort? It seems like you guys have really turned it up a notch the last couple of months from when you guys first debuted.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for context, when we started was a little, like, we started as a Splatoon 2, like, pickup back when I wasn't on a team at all, called Stampede, just a random name Stormhead. Excuse me for 1 second. Okay, anyway, so we started off with, like, a Bamboo Junior shot, and I forgot what our other weapon even was. And 52, obviously. Like, we started with kind of a slightly different quad shooter thing as a pickup, and then eventually we got Arashi, and we moved to Splatoon 3, and we formed to a team. And then within the first month, went horrible. Like, I won't sugarcoat it. It was hard, and it was bad. Like, we quickly found out that the way we were playing Splatoon 2 does not work in this game, let alone the weapon change and a bunch of other stuff. Eventually, Kiwi also got really busy, and Kiwi could not play as much, and was just like, hey, I need to stop playing competitively. I still are, like, on a team. I still want to play comp, but I don't have the time to dedicate to consistent practice. I'll, like, officially be on your roster until you find someone. So, like, Kiwi was gone pretty quick, and so we were left with 4 people, one of which Mecha is a 5th on our team, can almost never actually practice during the weeks because he's very busy with school. That's kind of our situation. And so we were in a really rough period, and what I decided to do is just say, okay, let's reset. There's many different ways to play this game. The way we were playing Splatoon 2 doesn't work, but this isn't Splatoon 2. We can approach this game in a lot of different ways. Let's go around and figure out how we want to play the game. So we tested, like, playing a chip damage comp with Leo kind of playing as a pseudo tryout with X-Blaster, Range Blaster stuff. We tried playing really slowly. And eventually, after FLC gave me, like, a mini coaching session, we stumbled onto quick respawn comps. And then I was told about, like, hey, you could play Wiper to learn. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not good at Wiper. Arashi can play Wiper. And so we started doing double sword and a bunch of quick respawn. And that started to work, and we were like, okay, we can learn this. We picked up Havoc, and then from there, it was just a lot of improvement happened. Like, at the start of the game, I think I even remember you mentioning it on one of your own podcasts. Like, you were like, Last Resort for the names on their roster are not getting the results that players expect of them. Something like that, right?
Yes, and that was a
and you were right.
statement.
You were 100% right. That was a correct assessment. Like, we did not disagree with it. But from my perspective, it was like, we needed to shift how we played. We needed to pick up a new player, and then we needed to get good at that play style. And my focus has always just been the long term. Like, if we can figure out what we're doing, I know long term we'll get results. And then we had 3 runs in a row that did well. We had the NA Open where we beat Seafoam, who had beaten DNA. We almost beat Ascension. We lost to Seo in another close set. Like, that was our good first run. Then we had 20XX where we beat Graveyard Shift. We almost beat Robbie and his Japanese team. And then we've had this event, Idol, which is the first one Havoc got to be able to play in. And that one was a bit tricky because we had a lot less paint, so the comp was way harder for us. But it went well as well. We beat Obito's pickup. We went 2-3 versus Kings and lost in very unfortunate fashion. And, we've just been having a better and better run every tournament. I felt we've been getting more and more comfortable with like figuring out how we want to play. And honestly, I've just been having a lot of fun. I have not had a team for a bit now, let alone one with like this long term of focus. And it's just been really fun competing and getting better. And I'm very proud of my team to be able to like improve because it's rough, like doing worse than expected. You get a lot of shit for it. And there's definitely a lot of people who are just, wow, this team is not doing well. And you have to be able to get through that to get better. And I think a lot of teams fail at that kind of aspect.
Well, it's different for you, and it's always going to be different from you because of the stature that you have, like like the aura that you have about you. If you anytime you're on stream, the commentators, they're not going to say anything about Havoc. They're not going to say anything about Arashi. They're going to say everything about you. Because you're the star of what people are coming in to watch. And if you don't reach that point, like if you're a low ink team and you don't get to the point to where you want to be, the only person who's really talking about you is me. Whereas when you're a top level team and you kind of underperform, everybody across the planet on Twitter is going to be talking about you. So it's a different kind of pressure. But you guys clearly have turned the corner from where you started out. Like you mentioned, the teams that you're beating, Graveyard Shift, your NA run, taking Kings to a game 5. I was curious with the new like place that Last Resort has kind of carved out for yourselves in the West. What do you, when you play a tournament, what determines if you are like satisfied with where you placed or not? Is there like a certain placement you're looking for? Is there like certain teams you're trying to beat? Like, how do you determine if the tournament was good or not for your own standards?
Usually it's like beating at least one good team, like top team, which depends on standards a lot. But the main thing I look for is like every major. Obviously, occasion like we're probably gonna have one eventually where we don't do better, but pretty much every major event we do, I'm looking for us to perform better than the previous one. Like do better against good teams, get more results, get further in bracket, whatever it might be. We usually have a good way of feeling like regardless of how the tournament goes, if we did better or not. Like we lost it all to Volti's team 1-2, and I still felt like we did way better. Like that was a rough set to do after Kings, right? As long as I feel that each tournament we are getting better and there is steady progress, that is what I look for. Because if we can continue this upwards momentum consistently, I know eventually we could be the best team.
The best team, well, if you want to be the best team, eventually you're going to have to beat Starburst, which nobody in the West has done in any tournament since Splatoon 3 has come out. The numbers they have are hilarious against other teams. And I'm curious, I know you've played against them. I know you've scrimmed against them. I know you've done pickups against those guys, probably with those guys for many years now. What they're doing weapon-wise is not a secret. It's nothing unique. It's nothing no one else can copy, but they're still unbeatable with it. What could you tell us what Starburst, like what makes them different from everybody else that makes them up to this point unbeatable?
There's a few things to me. One, they're a team who has the most experience with each other out of everyone here. Like it, and it's not close. Almost every team in Splatoon 3 is brand new, like relatively speaking. Starburst has been around a long time, and even before Bagel and Biscuit joined Starburst, those two played with Ice a lot, whether it be under NFT Win or under Bowcut with me in 2020. That group has so much experience with each other. They know each other so well compared to every other top team. Like, Alliance Rogue would be the only close one you could compare to, and that is a 3-person roster right now. That's not even a full team. Starburst knows each other way better than any other team knows their players. The other thing is how they approach the game, and they as a team just have the best like approaching from a team mindset. Their calls are good. Ice is one of, if not the best shot callers out there. They always communicate in things that make it easier to coordinate in terms of like specials or who they dive or where they go. So they're also the most coordinated team out of everyone. And then third off, they are just straight up the best individual skill team. Like all of their players are some of the best players in the entire Western scene. They don't have like one standout player or anything. No, all four of them are stacked individual players who are some of the best mechanical at the game. So like they just really are that stacked. That's why it's going to take a while for a Western team to get there. You can't just throw four really good players who have won things in 2020 before and expect them to win because the bar is not there anymore. The bar used to be there. That used to be where top teams were at, where a new team could form out of a bunch of good players and be better than them. That's what FT Win was. But the bar isn't there anymore. The bar is way higher. This is a team who's gathered the experience, who's gathered the individual skill, the team game sense together, and has continued to grow over time as other teams die and reform and reset. And I think it will take a while. Like, as confident as I am in my own team, I don't think we're at the point where we're ready to beat Starburst yet. I think it's going to take another few months for us. And for other teams, I think it could take even longer. But I think teams need to look at the game more in a coordinated sense, really get familiar with their players, and stay on the same team. And that's a tough task. And it could take a long time before that happens. But that's why I think Starburst has such a gap. It's all of those reasons together just give them so many advantages that they've rightly earned. And other teams have to work really hard to get to the level that they've been working hard to get at for way longer than everyone else.
And, I think FT Win had this same kind of path through Splatoon 2 where it was just whoever was like their second place team that was trying to beat them couldn't do it. So that team disbanded, shuffle some players around, musical chairs, create a new team that couldn't do it. And eventually you just Frankenstein Starburst together. And like a year after that, Starburst finally takes the torch away from them when all those FT Win players go to college. So yeah,
that's the thing. It took a while for Starburst to get there. It took over a year. Like Alliance Rogue was the only team that actually like at one point was consistently beating FT Win for a while. Like it took Starburst a year to get to that level, and it'll take these teams about a year to get to Starburst probably.
It's the age of the Starburst. Hey, you guys are going to Low Tide City. You announced today.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. I have never been to Texas, so we'll see how that goes. But me and Storm were pretty much able to go. It's not too far for me, like flight wise, so it's not too bad. And Storm lives nearby, so we basically just been waiting for Arashi to confirm. And then when we got Slacker as a coach, Slacker is also nearby. So, it's like it's a lineup we haven't played before because Slacker is normally coaching for us. But I mean, for the most part, it's 4 last resort players able to go to a LAN. I'm really, really excited for it. Honestly, LANs are so fun, especially with the team that well.
Yes, and especially when the competition's a little bit better. I know Smoothie's going. I don't know of any other not Smoothies, not any other, but like a +1 style pickup. I don't know if any of one of those teams are going just yet. But I'm gonna tell you just straight up because I know you've been to Riptide and I know you're at Big House. I think you're gonna like this one better than both of those. Like Big House. Well, I mean, just Big House, the tournament itself. I feel like that's always going to be the big tournament that draws out the top level teams to all come fight each other. But just the venue as a whole at Low Tide City, I think you're gonna really love this one above them all. So, it as is everybody else that's going. It's gonna be an awesome time. But hey, I'll see you there.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on. This was really good. You said some insightful things, and I'm kind of sad to know that we're kind of stuck in the meta that we're in for the foreseeable future. But you know what?
It's okay. The next patch will fix it, guys.
Yes. There's always tomorrow. Thank you for coming on. I'll talk to you again at some point there.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
And that was ProChara. one of the more prominent content creators that we have in this scene, inspired by Talk Speed Up. If K-Bot's ego could get any bigger, there's a little something that could go right into that one. That was a really good one. You know, I suck at interviews because I do a bad job of listening and responding to what the person's saying. But the way Chara says things, it's real easy to kind of pick up on what they're saying and come up with like follow-up questions to try to gauge out specifically what they're trying to say. I mean, it's a good point about I just did a segment last week talking about how I'm starting to get into this mindset that we need to make community rules, but in order to create them, it's damn near impossible. But when you use just the statistics, I forgot that Chara streamed DivX in comparison to Idle. Just the jump in numbers, just because the audience knows they're going to see something other than triple crab the whole time, does play a bit of a difference there. That was awesome. That was some good stuff. We still got a whole couple of more segments to go through, so let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. Before we dissect Little Squid League 28, it is time for the weekly recap. Let's balance that out a little bit there. I think that works out. Regardless, LSL. No, we're not going to LSL just yet. Instead, we're going to SOS number 100. Which was played on last Wednesday, the 100th edition of SOS. And they put the 100 emote in there, and that broke everything as far as the bracket is concerned. Solaris won the tournament. Healthy Diet Food Groups, who's going to play in the SAC Finals. They finished second place. Sequoia taking home third in this one. What I learned from this tournament, Healthy Diet Food Groups is legit. This is by far the best tournament they've ever had outside of SAC, so non-skill cap tournament. They seem to be back to where they were like a year ago, where they seemed like a really strong team, and then they were a questionable team. They seem to be a really strong team. I think they're set up for a great SAC run. Solaris was made up of Eclipse, Key, Seven, and Minor, I believe, of Nightmare. Hammerhead bracket was won by Paradox. Makeup bracket was won by Discord Kittens, and Lantern bracket was won by Squid Strikes with a Z. Squid Junction number 39, won by Zora Power. That was a 0 April Power pickup. Had like 4 other players on that roster. It was really big. I don't know if I'll actually play. Nightmare finished second place. Greasy Goblins taking home third. This was the biggest Squid Junction to date, and it seems like everybody's having their biggest iteration of their own tournament with the new tournaments that are coming out consistently. That's good. A lot of participation is up. Hopefully we can get viewership to match the increased participation. This seems to be rising with some of these other tournaments. The next Squid Junction, going to be the 40th one, is going to have a prize pool. I believe it was announced of $200. Not too shabby for a double limb tournament. The College Cephalopod Association has kicked off, and the first week of the season is in the books. In Division 1, the University of California Davis, the Banana Split team, got a 4-1 win over Case Western Reserve University. What the hell is that? In Division 2, the University of Houston got a 4-3 win over Cal Poly Pomona, the Reef Runners. Okay. Also in Div 2, the Ohio State University. They put the in there. They really put the in there. Bro, get over yourself. They got a 4-3 win over the University of Maryland College Park. UC Berkeley, 4-3 win over Texas. Hook 'em Horns. In Div 3, the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, got a 4-3 win over Massachusetts Dartmouth. In Div 4, Oklahoma University got a 4-3 win over the New Jersey Institute of Technology, and UC San Diego got a 4-2 win over Purdue, continuing the Purdue-San Diego rivalry that they've had going on there. This information brought to you by my new friend, Smiley Riley, who is now the designated person feeding me information from the College Cephalopod Association. A huge jump in teams that are being playing in that one. Very similar to Ludi. They just play one match a week. It seems like they're doing another season every single semester. This time around, they got 83 freaking teams with 62 unique universities across 7 skill divisions. My goodness, CCA. I see you. The college game is really strong in competitive Splatoon, and it's all thanks to the grassroots community. Check out my interview with Mizuno last semester. Don't know the episode. And that was your weekly recap. Sponsored by, hell, let's give it to them, the College Cephalopod Association. They'll be streaming matches on the official College Cephalopod Association CCA_Splatoon Twitch channel throughout the season. Be sure to check out Twitter for stream schedules and additional updates. That's twitch.tv/CCA_Splatoon. Twitter at CCA_Splatoon as well. Consistency across the board. They don't just have Mr. Pop Gun and 25 Pop Gun and Pop Gun 25 in some spots. Nice branding there, CCA. Let's make them the official sponsor, probably for like the 5th time of the weekly recap. A highlighted message that's a compliment. Thank you for hosting the Popcast, by the way. It's been lovely listening to it so far. Well, thank you. Hopefully it's still just as lovely, even though I have to do most of the talking now instead of someone as hip and cool as ProChara. Little Squid League 28. Then we'll call it a day. Baseball. Major League Baseball. There's a way I can make Major League Baseball into a segue about Little Squid League, right? Of course, you guys are big baseball fans. You guys love when I talk about ball sports. And by you guys, I basically mean Greg. That's about it. But baseball's introduced this new rule. Think about it. Baseball's been around for over 100 years. And it's only recently that people started figuring out what the meta of baseball should be. It's only recently where they started to realize, hey, wait a minute. What if when a left-handed batter comes up to the plate, let's take that third baseman and just stick him in between first and second base. And all of a sudden, that one little shift breaks the entire game. The meta of baseball was discovered like 100 years after the game was been played, and it completely broke the game. Really good hitters like Ryan Howard and Chris David, that switch, the shift, completely ended their careers. They were done playing at that point because they just couldn't break that. But right now, there's a pitch clock that's being installed. So before a batter would get into the box, the pitch would be thrown. It'd be a ball. The batter didn't even swing. They got to step out. They got to readjust their gloves. They got to throw some more seeds into their mouth. And it takes like a whole hour just to get through in a bat. Not literally. It just takes a long time to get through in that bat. So they installed a pitch clock. With 8 seconds on the clock, you have to be up and looking at the batter. And by the time the clock hits 0, the pitcher has to begin the motion. And you got 15 seconds in between each pitch. There was a guy that was struck out last week in 20 seconds. This is a huge thing because the amount of time a Major League Baseball game lasts is now shortened by about an hour on average. A whole hour. That is huge. So as we're getting these bigger and bigger tournaments in Splatoon, what is the equivalent of the Major League Baseball pitch clock that we're trying to implement into competitive Splatoon tournaments? Because some of these tournaments are lasting way too damn long. Way too long. And I'll be the first to admit that I am not happy with what the current 2-day low ink system is looking like, because Sunday should not be lasting as long as it is. So it's like, what are these little like speed running tips? Where can we gain a few frames in this round and a couple more frames in that round to where we can shave off like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever? My hope of getting a Saturday done in 3 hours or less, that's still alive. One thing, and early reviews from other TOs about this is pretty promising, is the new pool system that we have. So instead of sending friend codes, you can just say, here's the pool code. Join up this room. So like this 5 minutes you guys take to close the private room lobby because you got to accept the friend request to punch in the friend code to get everybody in. That now gets shortened by like 3 minutes maybe. Like if you can get into a lobby 3 minutes quicker, think about that. That's 3 minutes saved per round over the course of like a 10 round tournament. That really adds up. That saves a lot of time over the course of an entire tournament. But this new thing that we've been doing, and this isn't like a low-level exclusive thing. I know Squid Junction does this. We do it at Proving Grounds. Setting time limits for each round. And really starting to put the foot down. Before, it was like, okay, you got 30 minutes to play this round, this best of 3 set. Oh, it's gone over 30 minutes. Before, TOs were just like, let's just let them play it out. Maybe they'll be done in the next couple of seconds. And then 5 minutes go past, and they're finally done. They're 5 minutes over the limit, but hey, they got the match in done. It's not a big deal. The problem is 5 minutes added on this round to let this one match finish. 5 minutes added on the next round. 6 minutes the next one. Before you know it, your tournament has added on an extra 30 to 45 minutes because we aren't enforcing the time limit rules that we're putting down. They're just kind of a soft thing. Well, now you're finally starting to see TOs across the board, across orgs, start to put their foot down and say, nope, you went over the time limit. We need to start making some decisions here. There's several different ways you can go about it. Some TOs just say, we're tying it. If it's 1-1 apiece and you guys don't get the third game in on time, it's a tie. You guys end up 1-1. I know LSL did it. I want to say MIT does that as well. No, SAC's done that format before, too, within IPL. What we do at Low Ink is we look through the chat and figure out, okay, which one of these teams is DCing or went to help desk to complain about a rule that they should have known beforehand, or took too long to get into the room because they said their opponent they were playing solo queue or something like that. Like, we figure out who caused the delay, and we automatically give the win to the other team and just move on. So a lot of times the team will win game 3. They'll come back to Battlefied chat only to find out they lost the set because their own teammate DC'd like in game 1 and caused everything to slow down. It's a lot of work, and sometimes we give a win to a team who, after looking back over the Battlefied chat, we were like, oh crap, we should not have given a win to that team. And then they come to help desk and start slowing down the next set because they're complaining about the one that happened prior, causing this like endless circle of slowing down everything to argue about things that are already been decided. So there's no like right or wrong answer here. The most important thing to point out, though, is that TOs are finally saying, doggone it, we said 30 minutes. It's been 30 minutes. This set's done. We're starting the next round, whether you guys are going to be still in your game 3 or not. We can't sit around and wait for you guys to twiddle your thumbs, to figure out who's going to host, to figure out which one of your teammates that isn't using a LAN cable is going to DC this time. It's slowing it down for everybody. And you've gotten some pushback from players, and understandably so. One of these baseball games from last week ended in a player getting called out on a third strike in the bottom of the 9th with the bases loaded. The player wasn't looking up at the batter, or the batter wasn't looking up at the pitcher with 8 seconds on the clock. They were still like looking down with 8 seconds on the clock. That's a strike. It's their third strike. The game's over. And understandably so, that batter and the manager, even though it's a preseason game that doesn't mean anything, we're pissed off. And yes, if I was playing a set and I'm in game 3 and I finally win it, only to look back and see it was tied or given the win to the other team, as a player, I would 100% be pissed off about that as well. You're going to get some pushback about it. But my point being, if Little Squid League is now a 100-team tournament, and I've said this for like the past 4, maybe past 3 Little Squid Leagues I've covered, I've said this phrase, this is the biggest Little Squid League ever. Well, I'm going to say that next month and probably the month afterwards. Little Squid League is exploding right now, and there's no real way to figure out how to get this tournament done in a quick way, in a fair way, and determine who of these 100 teams is, without a shadow of the doubt, the best team that signed up and played in that day. It's damn near impossible to pull off. But these little time frame saves that you're going to see here in Little Squid League, in Minnow Cup, in Squid Junction, in Proving Grounds, which, by the way, Proving Grounds, our best of 3 sets is 25 minutes. And the only teams who have complained about the 25-minute rule set that we put in for Proving Grounds, low ink teams. Every single time. Low ink teams. But what is, I don't know. I wonder if Little Squid League looks at this and says, what do we do? What do they change? Because I saw somebody leave some feedback that was, make this a 2-day tournament. There's no way Little Squid League can be a 2-day tournament. There's no way. Hell, Little Squid League is lucky to even get one Saturday a month, let alone a Saturday and a Sunday. Because if you've been paying attention, you know Little Squid League by far the most effed over tournament in this entire community, as far as picking a date that they're going to run and then somebody rolling them over and taking that date from them, and they just either cancel it or just go completely off of it. By far, nobody else can complain about it. And I'll raise my hand as one of the people that ran over Little Squid League one time. That's on me with low ink. And that issue hopefully has been solved, because now I put all the low ink stuff on the TO calendar for like 6 months in advance, so that we don't like steamroll other people, because we understand there needs to be things outside of low ink, outside of IPL, for the community to thrive. So I'll admit I was one of those jackasses that I was part of the problem. I'll openly admit that. But man, a 2-day tournament to knock out 100 teams, that's crazy. That's crazy. On top of like low ink and every other tournament, every other low-level tournament that shows up. Grandma got run over by a reindeer cup. That's something somebody does, right? Regardless, don't know what the future is. It's a good problem to have. Cheers to Little Squid League for getting 100+ teams signing up for your tournament. It's just the beginning. Little Squid League isn't even close to what its peak is going to be. But I think for right now, Swiss Group seems to be a pretty good solution to it. But, geesh. You guys love you some Little Squid League. The best 5 matches that I have from the Swiss stage before we look at silver and gold bracket. My top 5 matches. First off, in Group G, you have Prismatic Inc., who got a 2-1 win over Royal Succulents. And this is the point where, well, we're long past this point, but this is the point where we start having these, where you guys will start realizing, oh, divs are bullcrap. Now, the divs don't mean anything. The div you got 3 months ago doesn't apply to where you are right now, because Royal Succulents, who is a Div 10 team who got runner-up in Div 10, seemed to be right with Prismatic Inc. that was a Div 8 team. So you're going to see a lot more of those things, and a lot more scenarios where the Royal Succulent team will beat a team that's several divs above them. But right now, Prismatic Inc. was able to get the better end of that exchange right there. Arrows of Fire got a 2-1 win over Chronic Skill Issue, and I am so excited that Chronic Skill Issue played in this tournament. If you guys recall, the Reddit tournament, not this year, but January of last year, they had a casual division. And the winner of the casual division was Chronic Skill Issue. And I was excited because they signed up for Low Ink the next month. And I was like, are we going to figure out how the best casual team stacks up against like these low-level competitive teams? And they didn't play, and they haven't played in any tournament since then. And I think they might have played in like an Under Pressure or something. But they finally played in a little squid league, and they lost to Arrows of Fire 2-1. Hey, Arrows of Fire is a tough team. If you guys were to fight a Fire Arrow, you'd probably lose to that as well. Let's be honest here. In Group E, the Whip Rays got a 2-1 win over the Glitter Gel Pins. Listen, I've constantly been on the record, and I'll continue to say this. Glitter Gel Pins are one of the worst things on this planet. Just something that is glitter that is just, when glitter gets anywhere, it's just stuck. And pins don't need to be super fancy with the ink. You just gotta, just simple black or blue that you can look at and read off of there. But I haven't seen the Glitter Gel Pins in a while, and I'm happy that they're back. Or at least I can recognize that they're back again. The Whip Rays, strong team, playing on a lot of low-level tournaments. Playing pretty well in Ludia as well. Glitter Gel Pins can't find a way to get that third win against them, but still a good set nonetheless. Glitter Gel Pins, I love you guys. I believe that's Inkcraft Cult. The old Inkcraft Cult just got rebranded, or maybe just a new team or something like that. Have some association with that team. The Bottom Feeders got a 2-1 win over the Tacta-Fuelers. Not the Tacta-Rulers, Tacta-Culers, Tacta Cookie and Juicers. No, just the Tacta-Fuelers. The Bottom Feeders got a 2-1 win over them. If you're wondering who Bottom Feeders are, this is their first non-Ludi tournament that they played in, where they were the Div 9 runner-up. A very competitive Div 9 runner-up. The Tacta-Fuelers, I forget what div they're in, doesn't really matter. They've been playing in a ton of tournaments. Bottom Feeders been getting the better end of them. 2-1 right there. The other match that I want to highlight here is in Group F. Riptide. No, not the tournament, not the old team that Riptide that was playing at low level back when we were known as Sploot Troops playing at low level. But just straight up Riptide got a 2-1 win over Arrowhead in Group F. What's interesting about this one is the only weird, well, not the only weird, but one of the things that sucks about Swiss is you can seed your tournament with Swiss in mind. In round 1, it'll play out exactly how the seeds work. In round 2, Battlefy says, to hell with seeds. Let's just start throwing things together. Let's just start making some chaos to see what happens. Riptide was the number 2 team in their group. Arrowhead, the number 1 team in their group. And Battlefy said, let's let you guys play in round frickin' 2. And that's so annoying. But that's just the nature of Swiss. Riptide technically getting the upset over Arrowhead 2-1. I believe both teams moved on to gold bracket anyway, so it kind of works out in the end. Swiss, as janky as Swiss is, it always works out in the end, unless it doesn't. Or Arrowhead didn't make gold bracket. Well, you got to win that match. You got to beat Riptide at some point anyways, if you want to move on to gold. Regardless, they're your top 5 matches from the Swiss stage. You say Swiss, stop. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Provolone format, but nobody really uses Provolone for tournaments. Sharp Cheddar. Sharp Cheddar is pretty controversial, but it's also one of my personal favorites. We're talking tournament formats, right? Let's take a look at Silver Bracket. Silver Bracket. Look how big this damn thing is. Look at this. Remember Silver Bracket used to be just this, and now you just add it. Look at all of this. My goodness. This is a phone book that we're looking at right here. This is Silver Bracket. So the top 4 teams that finished up in here, 69 Soupe, with an exclamation point, 69 Soupe. Taking 4th place here, Fosper being the team that beat them. Pure Chaos is the team that finished in 3rd. Pure Chaos, I think this might have been one of the teams that got down to this bracket because of like awkward tiebreaker stuff. I think they had like a 1-1 thing that just got ended because over the time limit and didn't work their way. So be it. But it looks like they had a good run through here anyways. And these are best of threes, by the way, these first couple of rounds. They survived to game 3 against Scarlet Inc. This is fine. They survived to game 3. Whip Race was able to take a game off of them, took the team that won the whole bracket to a game 5 before finishing up in 3rd place. So Pure Chaos having a good little run here. Probably not a joy-free run. Seems like a pretty stressful run all the way to 3rd place. But this is kind of what Silver Bracket is all about. Grinding, getting tough, gritty results that will pay off for you down the road. Phosphor in all capital letters. Make sure you take your cap locks off whenever you're typing your team name in there. You come across a little too aggressive for my liking. These guys got top 8 in Silver Bracket last Little Squid League. They went 2-4 in the most recent low ink that they played in, taking Moonstars all the way to a game 7 here. At Moonstars being a team that earned everything in this bracket. Chronic skill issue took them to a game 3. As I mentioned, Pure Chaos took them to a game 5, and they had to survive a game 7, which was counter picks. I'm assuming. I think this is all counter picks in these final matches here. Moonstars able to get the better end of everybody there. Fun grind for them. They went 3-3 in the most recent low ink. They did not qualify for Sunday. They actually won their Swiss group in the last Little Squid League. Like can you technically win your Swiss group if you only play 4 teams of the other 12 that are in there? Yes, no, maybe so. But they did go 4-0 in their Swiss group last time. Obviously, I'm assuming they went 2-2 this time around is how they fell down here to this bracket. But like I always say, if you fall to a bracket you didn't want to make it into, or you weren't really feeling like you should have been in there, what do? You whoop ass in that tournament. And Moonstars didn't really do that, but they did get a scrappy win against some other teams that probably felt like they didn't want to be down here as well. So it's good that Silver Bracket is producing some high-quality matches nonetheless. What is that? Is it telling me how to click? Is it telling me what the left? Yeah, I assume when I hit the left click button that it's going to click something. Thank you, Battlefy. Man. And I thought you guys didn't read the rules. All right, let's take a look at Gold Bracket and call it a day. The couple of things I wanted to point out here is this JoJo team, the Joe Cephalopod Joe Starfish squad. If you guys recall, this is a team that finished in 2nd place last month in Little Squid League. And they don't make it all the way down there. But we do know that JoJo is the path to winning the tournament. If you want to win Little Squid League, at some point you got to beat JoJo here. And this was a strong tournament run for them. Not really taking any L's in Gold Bracket until they just ran into the team that won the whole tournament. Nothing really to hang your hat on there. It happens. Go back to the chalkboard and see what you can do to face them a little bit later. But at least you can take solace in saying the only team that beat us is the team that won the whole thing. But Galaxy Squids didn't have an easy path through here. I mean, they dominated everybody. Once they got the grands, it was pretty much a curb stomp there as well. But this Crystal Coral Galaxy Squid match was clearly the best match of the tournament. And it was the match that was on stream. I believe Galaxy Squids went up 2-1 for Crystal Coral, forced the game 5. Galaxy Squids put it away. So you had a competitive match here. And Crystal Coral seems to be a team that's right with everybody else. They had a pretty smoothish sailing ride up to this top 4 bracket anyways. I wonder if this one actually played or not. You got to give benefit of the doubt and assume that the Ink Strikers did play this one out and just dominated them 3-0. But just looking at these scores, which you can't really do, you get the sense that Crystal Coral's a contender, if not a borderline banned team next month with how well they played throughout this tournament here. Other teams to look at here. Octopi, obviously, finishing in second place. Who is Octopi? They got gold bracket in the last Little Squid League, and I didn't write down anything else about them other than that. I know they've been playing in some other tournaments. I want to say they are a Ludi team. I don't know. But this is just one of those scenarios where you got to play some more tournaments, get some notable results to where, okay, this is a recognizable thing. And Octopi now has one of those tournament results underneath their belt. Yes, Galaxy Squids was clearly the better team, but Octopi now has something they could put in their trophy case. So there's something to talk about them going forward when we see them play in the next Little Squid League or Low Ink. And if they go up against the JoJo team, that'd be an interesting, lot of storylines going on there. A couple of bridesmaids battling out to see who's going to be the next bride winning this tournament before somebody you've never even heard of slipping all the way through. Ink Strikers, who did finish in third place here, survived Phantom Manta, the heck? Cool Pro Fortnite players. Come on, guys. Low level's usually better with pickup names than this. But Ink Strikers seem to have a pretty easy run all the way through this one here, taking third place technically on the books. And I'm just going to operate on the assumption that they just blew out Crystal Coral and said, get out of here. We want that bronze medal more than you do. EU Team 2, that must have meant they played like deep into Sunday morning. So hats off to them. But it doesn't surprise me that it's North America kind of in this grand finals here. So who is the Galaxy Squids? They've played in Low Inks before. They made Gamma Bracket in January. Didn't get any wins. They made Delta Bracket in October. Didn't get any wins. So they're a consistent Day 2 Low Ink team. And recall, a Gamma Bracket in January, that was when we have the Epsilon Bracket. So Gamma Bracket in January, just qualifying for that is very impressive. But they haven't found a way to get a win on Sunday yet. Well, maybe they're just a Saturday team, as they proved here this Saturday. Again, the number one seed team here, Kerm stomped everyone. Crystal Coral gave them everything that they could handle. They were truly challenged. But Galaxy Squids, just recent memory suggests that Galaxy Squids is probably the most dominant LSL team that's been around for a while. Again, it's not like it was a free tournament or they shouldn't have been in here or anything like that. They just had it all on the same day, and they're able to get the job done. Pop both day 2s we've had to 3v4. We were short. We were a match short. Well, maybe that is a little bit. And that's another reason why you people that are saying Little Squid League should be a 2-day tournament. Oh, boy. Imagine the joys of waking up on Sunday and having a completely different roster from what you had on Saturday. One of our members was missing. Oh, okay. It's the same comment from the past. Well, there you go, Galaxy Squids. You've made it all the way through. Little Squid League champions. Now, Wave Break has been really good. Since they won Little Squid League 2 months ago. Where is Galaxy Squids going to go from here? Well, it seems like they just need a consistent Sunday roster, and they can do some damage with the brackets that they're making. But it's already been a long episode of the Popcast, and the Galaxy Squids have already kind of shown off on stream just how tough that they are. Out of 101 teams, the Galaxy Squid stands alone. That's impressive. Jeesh. And that does it for today's lengthy episode of the Popcast. If you'd like to be a part of the podcast in any way, feel free to reach out. My socials below: Twitter, Mr._Popgun, Discord, Popgun, #5882, YouTube at 25Popgun, Twitch at Popgun25, Anchor.fm/Popgun. Who are we going to raid? I can't raid myself as much as I would like to. I have no clue who this person is, but they're streaming Splatoon. Oh, wait, no. Rose is streaming. Let's do that. Once again, this doesn't need to be case sensitive. It doesn't. Hey, get vaccinated. Go sign up for Low Tide City. Do that sooner rather than later before prices increases. And we'll see you guys next week. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about next week. Sign up for Low Ink now instead of later. Please.